to Bookwrights House, where every story we share honors the heart, heritage, and humanity behind the words. Today's guest brings us a literary quilt stitched from memory, culture, poetry, and the enduring aroma of cherished family meals. In a tapestry of reminiscences, rhymes, and recipes, Mrs. Aileen Quin Wietstruk offers readers an evocative look into post World War II family life, the evolution of parenting styles, and the traditions that shape her family stories, all interwoven with poetry and authentic recipes that warm both hearts and homes. Miss Eileen, I'm Elijah Barcelona, and it is a privilege to speak with you today. So thank you for being with us, and let's get started with the interview.
All right.
Yes, thank you so much. Let's go first with the making of a tapestry. So your book brings together so many rich elements, personal history, poetry, and recipes. What was the initial inspiration for compiling these diverse components into a single volume?
Well, after my husband died of pancreatic cancer in 2006, and I needed to fill my time with something. And I went through, a deep devastation about his death. But it's like you want to go home, but you can't go home because your husband was home and you can't go back. So eventually, I just decided, well, I had promised my sister Maeve that I would get her poetry published. And so I started off with that in mind. And then I went to check on all the old stories that I had heard throughout my family about the fact that my great-great-grandfather was the grandson of the Earl of Dunraven. And so I started trying to tell his story. And in doing that, tell my own story about my father and my parents and just everything that was involved in that. And so that's how I began. And I started doing a lot of research on the old stories that had come about, things that my great-great-grandfather, Jeremiah Quin, had written an autobiography of his own. Mm-hmm. And in his autobiography, he left some conflicting information. So I was trying to trace back on all of that. And I did find the Earl of Dunraven, and of course the records related to the British dynasty type things, all the records that were left of that. And so I began with that. But he came to this country in 1850. And in 1850, when he arrived, he was only 17 years old. He had been driven out of Ireland by the fact that the British were chasing him for having raised unrest among the peasantry and the indigenous Irish. And so he left, and apparently, according to what we heard, 13 other boys also left at that same time in order to confuse the British. And so I started off with that and trying to find out, making sure that my Jeremiah Quin was in fact the Jeremiah Quin. And I knew that from things that my father had told us when we were little. And so I found the ship that he had traveled on. And from that, I began to do other things. And in his book, in his memoirs that he had written, he had stated that his father and mother had left him as an infant with his grandparents. And so everybody always assumed it was the Earl of Dunraven grandparents. But in actual fact, I found out that it was actually his mother's grandparents that he had been left with. And so anyway, I was traversed all the different areas of history that you can find, looking for different things and getting small pieces of information. And so I eventually compiled the Tapestry. And I called it that deliberately because of the reminiscences that I was writing, along with my sister's rhymes, and then recipes that my children had all liked very much as they were growing up. And so I put it all together in one volume. And so that's how I got started. I've worked all over the United States in a variety of areas. One of the areas was at the University of California in Riverside. And I worked in the botany and plant sciences department there. And as such, I was typing the research papers of all the different postdocs and the doctor and the professors themselves. And I learned a lot of stuff while I was doing that. For instance, I found that the avocado is the most nutrient-dense food on the face of the planet, which was really a surprise to me. And at that time, I didn't even eat avocados, but I began to because they would take one little needleful from their, that all they needed for their research from each avocado. And then the other avocados were all just dumped in the back in a big, huge dumpster, like you see anywhere. And that would allow the staff that were there could go out and get as many avocados as they wanted. So I started taking avocados and grapefruit and orange, and what else? I think that was the main things that we took, grapefruit and avocados. And it was wonderful. It was some of the best years of my life. So I really, truly enjoyed that time period. And that's how I all got started with everything. I used the knowledge that I had of doing word processing to write the book. And in the process of doing that, I also, one of the things we had to do at the university was to make a record of everything that we did so that it could be taken back, and you had to go out and check out a journal, whatever journal they were going to publish in, and then format their manuscript to be publishable in that journal. So I learned a lot about the different things that were going on and things to do it. And I found out, for instance, that there was no right and wrong, because every journal published in a different style. And so that was the beginnings.
Okay.
I probably have taken way too much time. I'm sorry.
No. I enjoyed hearing that from you. Okay, so let's go through the legacy through storytelling. So, family stories are often passed down orally. What motivated you to preserve these reminiscences in a written format for future generations?
Well, I knew that there were so many family stories that my dad he was a lawyer, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
and he used to haul us out of bed at night sometimes to listen to something that he considered absolutely imperative that we know. And so I wanted to keep he had died in 1980, and so I wanted to put his stories in here also, and I did that. Put them in there, all the different ones that we had heard as a kid. And so that is one part of it. And then there were things like my mother's father had been adopted and therefore did not really know who his parents were. And he lived in Lannon, Wisconsin, which is where my whole family was situated, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we did that until my husband arrived here from Germany. And that put a whole different slew of family in my life. And so, when my daughter was born, and she was born on the 4th of July, 1967. Mm-hmm. So that, of course, was a major big event. And my husband had been a pastry chef in Berlin. And we held an open house at our house every 4th of July. And anybody that ever had an invitation to it always showed up again, because he was a fantastic pastry chef. And he would make 4 beautiful cakes. And then, so I guess he had been married previously, and my stepson, Eric Wietstruk, was 10 years older than my daughter. And on her birthday, when she was 6, he informed her that all the firecrackers and all the stuff that was going on was not for her. And she was devastated by that knowledge. And so that's just one of the stories. But there are so many. And in the book, I have a lot of pictures of family. And we went in 2011. My daughter took us back to Ireland, and we went to Adair Manor, which is the Quin family home. And so I went through that, and we took all kinds of pictures of Adair Manor. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge, huge place. And I just was absolutely shocked. Here's a picture of Adair Manor there, one side of it. Mm-hmm. So it was a big place, and there's all kinds of things in here. There's the knights table where all the knights sat. I don't know if you can see that or
Yeah,
not.
I can see it, yes.
Yes. So that's in there too. We had a lot of pictures there. And basically I told the story of my life and where we came from. That's Jeremiah, and then Jeremiah's wife,
Mm-hmm.
and Marianne Kirby was her name. And so, yeah, so that's where how I began my writing career, writing this book. I continued my writing career with this book,
The
which is
timepiece.
the timepiece. And in the timepiece, that's a story that I made up, just about three kids who find what they think is an old timepiece,
Mm-hmm.
and they wind up messing around with it and wind up going back in time to the time of George Washington's spy who was hanging out her laundry. And so they have a series of adventures in that book, and that's that. And then the last one I wrote is this one, which is actually Fred and the Big Tree. And that was a little nighttime story that I had written for my granddaughter, Serena, when she was little. And she used to ask for it all kinds of times. And so that story itself was so tiny that I wound up just putting coloring pages in it so the kids could color the pages of the story that they had heard.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically my writing career. And but it all began with this one, with the Tapestry of Reminiscences, Rhymes and Recipes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So next we'll talk about the poetry within the story. Your inclusion of beautiful poetry adds a deeply reflective tone. So when did you begin writing poetry, and what role has it played in your life over the years?
Well, actually, it's my sister Maeve who wrote the poetry.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, yes.
Right. The one poem that I have written is this one, and it's more about my husband. I miss you in the dark of night when sleep won't come, in the early morning light when the empty hours loom ahead. I miss you when I brush my teeth and contemplate the toothpaste I learned to recap. At the table I set for one, in the grocery as the list of what I no longer need fills my mind. I miss you. I miss you when our kids need advice or praise, when the book I just read begs to be discussed, when the TV news is too awful to bear, when good jazz fills the air. When I'm scared, sad, or happy, I miss you. In the long, lonely hours of all my life, I miss you. So that was my tribute to him.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so that's the only poem that's actually mine. The others are all ones that are from my sister, who wrote such beautiful poems.
Can you share another poem within the collection?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Let's share a little about its origin or its personal significance to you.
Well, here's one that my sister wrote. When I grow too old for self-deceiving, I'll have no pearly days for sweet reliving. The only dreams that slip right off the string as lightly as a snowflake or a ring, and there will be no end to grieving. That was one. And I like the other one that I liked the best of hers, I think, was the let's see, out from Chincoteague. She lived on the eastern shore. The sea, oh sea, the sea. Let's seesaw on the sea today. Let's ride our seahorse out to sea and not come back today. Oh, cheer for the fishy twang of the sea and jolt when the waves go thwack. We're out to ride on the sea today, and perhaps we never will come back. We're out beyond the breakers now, and the sea in long heaving swells, a briny motion, and the land's a low thinning top line, often hidden, and the sky's a triumphant bowl of opal blue, and perhaps we never will come back. There's so many of her poems that I really like. One of the ones that I loved a lot is one she called The Pebble.
The pebble.
Once upon a time, a little pebble by the dock had a secret ambition to become a great big rock. Oh, see the sassy wavelets catch it up with careless ease and toss it topsy-turvy where they please. But undismayed, the pebble sees there is a great big stone farther out in stronger surf, is standing on its own. And deducing that there's magic in the tide that beats it so, Peb daily takes a drubbing in the hope that it will grow. Silly little pebble, how impossible your dream. Ah, well, you are acquiring a water-polished gleam. So I like that
was
one.
nice. Yes.
Yeah, there were so many of them. She has so many in here. My favorite of hers was one that she was writing back when we were just kids. And that was time, what is this thing that men have crowned it and made it king? Is it a god that men bow down before it, that they fear its frown? The one who questioned was young and bold. The one who answered was wise and old. Time is the master and men the slaves. Time is the ocean and men the waves. No man shall be free of time until he knows what time is and where it goes.
It's also nice.
That is, one. She had so many that were so good that they really deserved being published, and that was how the whole thing began. Just with wanting to publish her poetry and then putting it all wrapped up in the story of my life and all the things that I did along the way.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, we'll talk about the culinary legacy next. So, some of the recipes you've included span both German cuisine and everyday fare.
Yes.
What inspired you to share these culinary traditions as part of your memoir?
Well, I did it because my children wanted they kept calling me and asking me, Mom, how do you do this? Mom, how do I do that? How did you make rouladen? How did you make sauerbraten? So that was the origin of the German recipes. But the other ones I threw in because holiday fare comes up, and how do you decide what makes a holiday meal and all that sort of thing. So, and then I included other things in it. In addition, things like zucchini and rice and my pasta salad and things of that. And then there's one that my daughter-in-law really, really liked. Well, and I named it Eileen's Vegetable Casserole. I took it from a cookbook of my mother's back when it's from 1939. In other words, the year that I was born. And she had collected all these individual cookbooks. I think they're maybe the basis of the original Betty Crocker recipes. Mm-hmm. But so the vegetable casserole is in there because I wanted my daughter-in-law to be able to make it again. She had asked me for the recipe, so I did it. And then I put in there how to do sweet and sour red cabbage. And rouladen, that one is one that the whole family really, really likes that one. So that is and then I also put in potato pancakes. My husband called them Kartoffelpuffer. So,
but among the recipes that you put, are there particular recipes in the book that hold deep sentimental value for you?
Oh yes, the ones that are the Easter meatballs, the Easter things that we made at Easter time, and then I also put in there an easy key lime pie recipe because my son really loved that, and and there's various and sundry recipes in here, and I also put in here my husband's sponge cake and his buttercream frosting. That everybody wanted to know how to make that, so that was those were the main ones. And other than that, the things that I did for the holiday time, and how to make sauerbraten. That one is one that I make it a lot, that particular recipe, because the whole kids love that thing. And the only thing, the rouladen recipe is the one that my daughter always gets very annoyed. If I make it for her brother, she says, "Oh, you have to make that for me too. You made it for him already? You can't do that. I need to have that too." So she lives in Maryland, he lives in Georgia, so he gets it a lot more often than she does.
Mm-hmm. The distance is near.
Yes.
Again, yes.
Kids are 10 years apart between them. Mm-hmm. And therefore, she's very competitive with him. Mm-hmm. They each have their own rooms here in my house. And so that's the basic stories of my life, more or less. And they're all sort of combined in this one volume. And
okay. So you mentioned it's the story of your life. So what would you say was the most rewarding part of writing this story?
Oh, the most rewarding part was hearing from family after it was published that they couldn't wait to get a copy of it. And I was able to tell them, "Oh, it's out there on Amazon. Go and get it whenever you want." And so that was very rewarding.
Indeed. And the book is warm. You can feel, how your family goes and runs.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And my grandson, Jonathan, read it when I said, he said he read it 3 times. Mm-hmm. He really enjoyed hearing about my life when as I was little, and the influence that my father had on me, which was enormous, I have to admit. I mean,
just like the title of the story, you reminisce your life. Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's
Okay.
exactly what you do. That's what it is. It's a tapestry of reminiscences, rhymes, and recipes.
Okay, so
And
looking ahead, what do you hope will be the lasting legacy of a tapestry of reminiscences, rhymes, and recipes, both for your family and for your readers?
well, I would like readers to be able to have a compilation of the recipes, and that they will also enjoy my sister's poetry.
Mhm.
And I write in there about Maeve in her own words. She had left something written at one time that was very interesting. She was a physicist, by the way. And in my family, when I was growing up, Maeve was the smart one, and everybody else knew that she was the one that was so brilliant. We were the last ones being asked. I was certainly one of the last ones being asked to think about anything. The thinker was always my sister Maeve. And my grandmother had names for all of us. You know, I mean, I was called the liar and a storyteller.
Mhm.
And my that was because my sister Maeve, whose turn it was to take out the trash, used to take it down to the bottom steps and leave it there. And then when I would protest later and say, no, I didn't do that, my grandmother would say, no, you're the liar, you don't count. And she had something she used to do when we were kids that she would tell us, all right, I'm going to know who's lying. I want you to close your eyes and stick out your tongue. And if it's got black spots on it, I'll know you're the liar.
Yeah.
And the one that I didn't figure out until as an adult, that it was if you looked at your tongue, if you were trying to see your own tongue, that meant that you were the one who was telling the lie. And because I always tried to see my own tongue, that's why I got the name the liar.
Mhm. Okay, that's a fun story fact. Okay, can I see the physical copy of your book? And
Yes.
can you invite our readers to buy your book, to read your book, to enjoy reading it?
Oh, I do hope that all of you will buy the book and love it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real, as one person said, a heartfully satisfying meal of a book. Absolutely love this compilation of wonderful family tales, yummy recipes, and thoughtful prose.
Mm-hmm.
So there it is. And I hope you'll all enjoy it, read it, and just love it.
Yes, we will. Okay, now for the last and most important question. How is it working with Ink to Strip and Bookwrights House? How is it working with us mainly?
Well, I hope that I have my hopes for this interview and the broadcast of it and all the things that have come up, and that you will be able to reach new heights with sales of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get really fortunate, sales of the timepiece as well. Because that one is also a very good story that is very, very interesting. And I have had so many people really like it. So,
Yes, praying for both of us.
yes, I
Okay.
am indeed very hopeful that with Books Right House, that I will get the exposure that my books need,
Mhm.
and that all will be well.
Indeed, all will be well and in the
Yes.
coming days. Okay, so Mrs. Wistruk, thank you for sharing your story woven so lovingly into prose, poetry, and cuisine. Your book is more than a memoir, it's a keepsake, a tribute to the lives before us, and a reminder that the details, those recipes, the rhymes, and reflections are what truly bind generations together. To our listeners and readers, thank you for joining us here at Bookwrights House. Until next time, may your stories be rich, your memories shared, and your table always full. Thank you so much.
Thank you.